The person you keep finding yourself thinking about is not just a random presence in your mind. There is a reason they still live in your thoughts, even when everything between you feels uncertain, complicated, or emotionally unfinished. What you are experiencing is not simply a product of loneliness, distraction, or a passing emotional phase. Something deeper is keeping this connection active within you, shaping the way your mind returns to them again and again without effort. They appear in your thoughts even when you are not trying to think about them. In moments of stillness, when the outside world quiets down and your attention is no longer occupied, they surface naturally. Sometimes it happens right before sleep, when your defenses soften and your mind becomes more open. Other times it happens in the middle of an ordinary day, when you are focused on routine things and suddenly, without warning, their presence enters your awareness. You might be working, talking to someone, or even feeling fine, and then something small triggers a memory. Their face, their voice, or a shared moment rises up inside you without invitation. It does not feel forced. It feels automatic, like something in you responds before you even have time to think about it. At times, you may have tried to push these thoughts away. You may have told yourself that you need to move forward, that holding on to them no longer makes sense, or that the situation between you is too unclear to keep emotionally investing in. You may have reminded yourself of the distance, the silence, or the confusion that exists between you both. You may have even questioned your own feelings, wondering if you are giving meaning to something that is not truly there, or if you are holding on to hope without solid ground. Yet despite all of that internal effort, the thoughts still return. Even when you feel resolved for a moment, even when you convince yourself you are done, they quietly come back into your awareness, not in an overwhelming way, but in a steady, persistent presence that does not fully disappear. This does not mean something is wrong with you. It does not mean you are stuck, overly attached, or unable to let go. It means that the emotional experience between you and this person has not fully settled within your inner world. Something about it remains open, unfinished, or not yet fully understood by your heart and mind. Connections like this are not built on logic alone. They are not created or removed just by decision or willpower. They form through layers of emotion, memory, meaning, and shared psychological imprint. When someone becomes deeply linked to your emotional system, they can continue to exist in your thoughts long after physical interaction has slowed or stopped. When a person keeps appearing in your mind without effort, it often reflects unresolved emotional energy between you. Something was felt strongly, even if it was never clearly spoken. Something was experienced internally, even if it was never fully defined or acknowledged out loud. The absence of clear closure does not erase the intensity of what was felt. It is also possible that this connection is not one-sided in terms of emotional impact. The other person may also carry thoughts of you, even if they are not expressing it or reaching out. Not all emotions turn into communication. Not all feelings become visible actions. Many people hold back what they feel because they are uncertain, conflicted, or afraid of what expressing it might bring into their life. They may not fully understand their own emotions yet, or they may be dealing with inner hesitation about how to respond to what they feel, so instead of acting on it, they hold it quietly within themselves. But silence does not always mean absence, distance does not always mean disinterest, and lack of communication does not automatically mean lack of feeling. You may notice emotional waves that seem to come without reason. A sudden sense of warmth, nostalgia, sadness, or longing that appears out of nowhere. You may feel connected to them even when there is no direct contact, as if something in your emotional field still recognizes their presence. This kind of experience is not simply imagination. Human emotions do not always follow visible patterns. They operate beneath the surface in subtle ways that are not always easy to explain or measure. Memory, attachment, and emotional imprint can continue influencing how you feel long after a moment has passed. What you are feeling does not make you weak. It reflects your capacity to form meaningful emotional bonds. When something truly matters to you, it does not simply disappear because you decide it should. The mind can choose to move on, but the emotional layer often moves at its own pace. When something significant touches your inner world, it leaves an imprint. That imprint remains until it is processed, understood, or gradually transformed through time and experience. Confusion does not cancel emotional truth. Silence does not erase connection. Distance does not automatically equal emotional absence. At the same time, this does not mean you are meant to wait indefinitely or ignore your own growth and emotional needs. It simply reflects that what you experienced had real emotional weight. It mattered. It left a mark on your personal story, whether or not it reached a clear resolution. Sometimes what keeps a person alive in your thoughts is not only love, but also uncertainty, not only connection, but also the lack of closure. And until that internal space is resolved, the mind continues to revisit it, trying to make sense of what the heart already felt deeply. You may never get clear answers from them, or you may suddenly receive them when you least expect it. Either way, what you feel and what you have experienced is still real. Your thoughts are not random noise and your emotions are not meaningless. They are part of something that touched you deeply and left a mark on your inner world. If this person keeps returning to your mind, it is because something between you has not fully settled yet. That does not mean it is meant to stay the same forever. It simply means it mattered enough that your heart has not finished processing it, and anything that carries that kind of emotional weight usually takes time to rest peacefully within you. Be kinder with yourself in this process. There is no need to judge your thoughts or force your feelings to disappear quickly. Emotional understanding does not happen under pressure. It unfolds slowly in its own time when you are ready to see it clearly. Sometimes the purpose of a connection is not permanence, but transformation. Certain people enter your life not only to stay, but to shift something inside you. They awaken emotions, reveal parts of you, and teach you how deeply you are capable of feeling. Even if things are unclear or silent now, the impact of that connection was still real for both sides. When someone continues to appear in your thoughts in a steady and repeated way, it often suggests that the emotional link has not fully closed. Even if communication has stopped, even if distance has grown, even if silence has lasted far longer than expected, your mind does not hold on to something without reason. There is usually something unfinished in the emotional story. And unfinished does not always mean something must continue outwardly. It simply means your inner world is still trying to make sense of it. The mind is not disturbed by what feels complete. It is disturbed by what remains open, unclear, and unresolved. You may notice that they come to mind during moments of joy when something good happens and your first instinct is to share it. Small victories, random thoughts, or beautiful moments may remind you of them naturally. It is not always sadness that brings them back. Sometimes it is connection, memory, and the instinct to share life with someone who once felt important. You might also find yourself wondering how they are doing, even when your own life is full. There can be a subtle emotional pull toward their world, not just their presence, but their inner state, as if part of you is still tuned into them in some quiet way. This kind of experience does not mean something supernatural or imagined. It reflects how emotional bonding works beneath awareness. When two people connect deeply, the experience leaves an imprint on the unconscious, and the unconscious does not follow logic or timelines. It follows meaning, emotion, and what has not yet been fully resolved. That is why their presence can still appear in your thoughts. Somewhere inside you, the experience still feels unfinished. And that unfinished feeling is often mixed with confusion, because not all emotional bonds form in clarity. Some are shaped in uncertainty, delay, fear, or hesitation. When something feels emotionally strong but externally unresolved, it creates inner tension. Sometimes love does not feel simple because it exists alongside fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of rejection, fear of repeating past pain, or fear of making the wrong move. Fear does not erase connection, but it can delay it, silence it, or keep it suspended in place. So you may ask yourself why, if feelings exist, nothing has moved forward. But emotional reality is not always expressed through action. Many people feel deeply, but struggle to act on what they feel because of inner conflict, past wounds, or uncertainty about timing and consequences. Some people are guarded because of what they have already lived through. Some carry emotional injuries that still influence their choices. Some feel caught between responsibility and desire. Others simply do not trust their own readiness for closeness yet. And some quietly believe they are not enough, even when they feel strongly. This is why the mind keeps returning to what the heart has not fully resolved, especially in silence, especially in stillness, especially at night when distractions fade and everything becomes quieter inside you. Because in those moments, what is unspoken becomes louder. There may also be something deeper happening beneath the surface. When you think of them, you are not only remembering who they are, you are also remembering who you were in that connection, the version of you that felt seen, alive, emotional, or connected in a particular way. Sometimes a person becomes linked not just to love, but to a certain version of yourself that existed in that emotional space. And when that connection feels unfinished, it can feel like something within you is still waiting for resolution too. That is why the longing can feel stronger than logic. It is not only about them, it is also about what they awakened in you. And this is also why emotions can fluctuate. One moment you feel distant and clear, and the next moment, a small memory brings everything back. This back and forth does not mean confusion is taking over you. It simply shows that different parts of your inner world are still processing the experience at different speeds. Healing is not about forcing yourself to forget. It is about slowly understanding what this connection meant, why it affected you, and what it is asking you to recognize now. Sometimes the connection stays in your thoughts because there is still something to learn from it. Sometimes because communication is not fully emotionally complete, and sometimes because both people are still developing toward a truth they are not ready to face at the same time. Emotional timing is rarely equal between two people. Even when feelings exist on both sides, fear, hesitation, and life circumstances can delay expression. And in that delay, silence takes the place of clarity. You may sense that they care, but remain distant. And often, that distance is not proof of absence, but proof of internal struggle. They may think of you more than you realize. They may feel the same pull, but hesitate to act because of fear of loss, rejection, or change. Love does not always move forward in a direct or visible way. Sometimes it exists quietly in hesitation, in reflection, in restraint, waiting for a moment when it feels safe enough to become clear. What you are experiencing is not something that can be dismissed as random or meaningless. Even if no clear answers ever come from the other person, or if clarity arrives unexpectedly at some point in the future, your inner experience remains valid. The emotions you feel and the thoughts that keep returning are not empty noise. They are part of something that reached you on a deeper level and left an imprint on your emotional world that your mind is still trying to understand, organize, and place into context. When a person continues to stay present in your thoughts, it usually means there is still something within that connection that has not fully settled. That does not automatically mean it must continue in the same direction forever. It simply reflects that the experience mattered enough for your mind and heart to keep processing it over time. Anything that carries emotional weight like that does not fade instantly. It does not disappear just because time passes or because you try to push it away. Instead, it settles slowly in layers, and each layer reveals a slightly different understanding of what it meant to you. During this process, it is important not to be harsh with yourself. There is no need to force your thoughts into silence or judge yourself for still thinking about them. Emotional understanding does not respond well to pressure. It does not obey commands or deadlines. It unfolds gradually in its own rhythm when you allow space for it rather than fight against it. The more you try to suppress it, the more it tends to return in subtle ways, because what has not been fully processed often seeks expression through repetition. Sometimes a connection does not enter your life to stay in its original form. Instead, it comes to shift something within you. It can teach patience in ways you may not have learned before. It can bring awareness of your own emotional depth, your boundaries, and your self-worth. It can also push you to stop chasing uncertainty and start trusting your own inner stability, even when external clarity is missing. And in some cases, it prepares you for a kind of understanding that may only make sense later, whether through reconnection, distance, or quiet acceptance. Whatever direction it eventually takes, your feelings are not a weakness. You are not mistaken for thinking about them so often, and you are not foolish for feeling something that continues to linger. Strong emotional bonds do not respond only to logic. The mind tries to explain them, categorize them, and sometimes even reduce them to simple answers. But the heart recognizes what felt real, what felt significant, and what created emotional movement inside you. That recognition does not disappear easily just because clarity is missing. When something truly matters, it does not simply disappear because you decide it should. It stays until it is understood, processed, and integrated into your emotional experience. And if distance exists between you and this person right now, it does not necessarily mean absence of feeling. It may also reflect timing, hesitation, emotional overwhelm, or inner conflict on their side that you cannot directly see or fully interpret from the outside. Human emotions are often not expressed in straight lines. They move in patterns, pauses, and contradictions. What is most important at this stage is not forcing an outcome or trying to control where this connection must end up. It is understanding what it is revealing about you. These kinds of experiences often highlight your emotional capacity, your sensitivity, and your ability to form deep attachments. They also bring attention to areas of growth, such as patience, boundaries, emotional grounding, and self-trust. Not as flaws, but as parts of your emotional structure becoming more visible through experience. There is also something important in how your mind responds to their presence. You may notice that they appear in your thoughts during quiet moments, when your mind is relaxed, or when life slows down. This is because the mind is less occupied with external tasks and begins to surface what remains emotionally active within. The unconscious does not prioritize what is finished. It brings forward what still carries emotional charge, meaning, or unresolved understanding. You might also find that you think of them during both emotional highs and lows. In moments of joy, your mind may naturally reach for the idea of sharing that joy with them. In moments of stillness, their presence may return without effort at all. This does not happen because you are choosing it consciously every time. It happens because emotional memory is not stored like ordinary memory. It is layered, and it reactivates through feeling rather than deliberate thought. This kind of connection often feels confusing because it does not follow simple patterns. One part of you may feel ready to move forward, while another part still holds emotional attachment. This internal difference can create emotional waves, moments of clarity followed by moments of longing, reflection, or even unexpected nostalgia. That fluctuation is not a sign of instability. It is a natural part of processing something that was meaningful but not fully resolved. It is also possible that this connection was not only about the other person, but about what they awakened in you. Certain relationships do not just connect us to someone else. They also connect us to parts of ourselves we had not fully accessed before. They can bring out emotional depth, vulnerability, hope, desire for closeness, or even fears of loss and uncertainty. That is why the memory can feel larger than the person alone. It carries an emotional version of you that existed within that experience, and that version does not simply vanish. This is why letting go is not always immediate or linear. It is not a switch that turns off. It is a gradual shift in understanding where meaning slowly replaces confusion and emotional intensity softens into clarity over time. Healing is not forgetting. It is making sense of what stayed with you in a way that no longer overwhelms your present. It is when the experience becomes part of your story rather than an open loop pulling your attention repeatedly. At the same time, it is important to remember that meaningful connection should never require you to abandon yourself. Whatever this bond becomes, it should not take away your emotional balance or your ability to grow independently. Real connection, in its healthiest form, does not demand self-erasure. It allows space for both people to exist fully, even when they are not fully aligned in every moment or stage of life. If there is something unfinished between you and this person, time will either bring clarity or bring closure. Both outcomes serve a purpose. One may bring reconnection under better understanding, where timing and emotional readiness finally align. The other may bring release, allowing you to move forward with more peace and less internal conflict. In both cases, you are not losing something meaningless. You are moving through something that shaped your emotional awareness. And if this person still feels distant or unclear in action, it may simply reflect their own internal state rather than the value of what you felt. People often carry emotions they do not know how to express, process, or act upon. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes it is uncertainty, hesitation, or emotional conflict that has not yet reached resolution within them. From the outside, it can look like distance, but internally, it may be something far more complicated. For now, what matters most is not chasing answers outside yourself, but recognizing the meaning within your own experience. What you feel is real to you, and what is real in your inner world deserves understanding, not self-judgment or dismissal. Your emotional experience is not something to argue with. It is something to learn from slowly and honestly, as it reveals more about what you need, what you value, and what affects you deeply. Over time, emotional intensity always transforms. It either deepens into understanding or gently fades into acceptance. But in both cases, it moves you toward clarity. And whatever direction this connection ultimately takes, it will not leave you where you are now. It will shape how you understand yourself, how you relate to others, and how you recognize what truly feels aligned with your emotional well-being going forward.